Lorena A. Hickok was born to a poor family on March 7, 1893 in East Troy, Wisconsin. Hickok had a quite lonely childhood which was full of abuse from her father and isolation. Her family moved frequently due to her father's instability and drinking problem. In 1906, Hickok was forced into the domestic workforce, working as a maid at the age of 14. Hickok wanted something more for herself, so at this time, with the help of her mother's cousin, she finished high school and picked up a job at the Battle Creek Evening News, covering train arrivals and departures and writing her own personal stories of interest. In 1912, Hickok started working at the Milwaukee Sentinel, where she worked as a society editor but grew quickly bored with the society assignments. She was well-liked and respected as a woman in the workplace and was able to convince her editor to assign her to the city desk. It was here that she quickly grew in popularity and her name was becoming recognized in the line of interview work. After 5 years, she transferred to the Minneapolis Tribune, where she worked as a rewriter, only to end up in New York City with hopes of covering World War I. Unfortunately, Hickok had a hard time getting used to big city life and was let go and decided to return to her position as a rewrite at the Tribune. It was at this time she enrolled at the University of Minnesota, but only stayed 1 year after the dean tried to force her to live in the all-women dormitory on campus. In 1932, Hickok had convinced her editors to let her cover the presidential campaign of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Some have speculated that Hickok did this to ultimately meet the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, who she covered while FDR ran for presidency. It didn't take long for the two of them to become very close friends and colleagues, a relationship that would privately blossom into something more. In 1933, Hickok resigned from the Associated Press because her budding relationship with the Roosevelts kept her from staying objective while covering the campaign. Eleanor Roosevelt helped land Hickok a job that investigated and reported on the conditions an average American was facing at that time, a position with the Federal Emergency Relief Administration. In only 3 years, she traveled to 32 states from which she organized detailed reports on New Deal policy, living conditions, and politics. She was so well-liked and well-written that she could easily talk to local residents about certain problems their community faced almost immediately upon arrival in each new place. She gained very much popularity during this time as an interviewer, something close to unheard of for women. During this time, Hickok and Roosevelt did not see each other too often, but spoke almost nightly on the phone together when they were apart. Eleanor Roosevelt even wore a sapphire ring from Lorena Hickok, and a letter later found held these words: "Hick, darling, all day I've thought of you, and another birthday I will be with you, and yet tonight you sounded so far away and formal. Oh, I want to put my arms around you, I ache to hold you close. Your ring is a great comfort. I look at it and think she does love me, or I wouldn't be wearing it." In 1940, Hickok became the executive secretary of the Women's Division of the Democratic National Committee. In the same year, Eleanor Roosevelt asked Lorena Hickok to move into the White House with her. It goes without saying that these two women were defying cultural norms with their relationship. In 1945, unfortunately, Hickok's diabetes worsened, first forcing her to leave her position at the DNC. 2 years later, though, Eleanor Roosevelt helped her land a job with the New York State Democratic Committee, where she worked for 7 years until her health worsened. She then moved to a cottage in Hyde Park to be closer to Eleanor Roosevelt. She passed away in 1968, 6 years after the First Lady. Years after both women's deaths, letters were retrieved from the FDR Library in New York, and the unexpected romance between Lorena Hickok and Eleanor Roosevelt was discovered. This is just one of the many reasons I feel as though Lorena Hickok was a brilliant candidate for the International Honor Quilt. She defied gender constructs in the workplace and reached her dreams of making it to the top. She was well-liked and respected by both men and women in the public and political sphere, and made a great impact in the lives of many Americans she met while inspecting and bettering their living conditions after the Depression. She can easily be seen as a role model for young women who have struggled in life, who've been put down in the workplace, or who've defied what society labels as love. She was a true trailblazer and feminist, whether she knew it or considered herself one. Her piece in the International Honor Quilt was honored by Rosemary Anderson, a lesbian feminist and Air Force veteran who recognized and appreciated Hickok's rise from poverty and into success, work equality, and true love.